Hi. This is just a quick video because we are both evidently too lazy to update the blog with keyboards, and we thought it might just be easier just to ramble on for a little bit. And
I just want the record to show that he's lazier than I am.
We'll go into this later. But as Jackie said, we've got a bit of a laundry list to go through of just stuff to just do random updates, and we'll both just throw in comments and see how we go. So the first thing on the list is the summer and the weather change.
I feel ripped off by Estonian summer. I didn't have big expectations. I wasn't expecting an Australian summer. But I thought, 2 weeks of nice weather might be nice. I didn't realise that 2 weeks of nice weather was going to be split over 3 months. And that we don't... It's true, we only got like 3 nice days at a time. And what happened was, we'd have some nice days and I was like, yes, summer's finally here. And then they'd be gone and I'd get really depressed because suddenly it was grey and raining again. And then in mid-July, so if you're in Australia, that's the equivalent of mid-January. No.
Close enough.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, actually it is.
Yeah.
So in mid-July, the leaves had started to change. So that's the equivalent of autumn starting in mid-January back home. So then I gave up. But in hindsight, I wish I'd known summer would be like that, because then every single nice day we would have gone out and done something instead of assuming there'd be more to come.
To be fair, people at my work were like, oh yeah, no, you've got to go out and do something because it's sunny today. And I was like, yeah, I'll get around to it. Yeah. And then it was just gone. So I was like, okay, next summer I'll take that a bit more seriously.
So now it is the 6th of October.
Mm-hmm.
And it is 6 degrees today, low of 1 degree.
Mm-hmm. And the leaves are almost completely gone. Well, trees are half empty of their leaves. And
there's a yellow carpet on the ground.
Yeah. So we missed summer, and it turns out that the joke that we read before we came, which is Estonians call summer just 2 weeks of bad skiing, but it wasn't 2 contiguous weeks.
Yes.
That would have been, even if it was just 2 weeks, but only 2 weeks together, that would have been much better.
It would have felt like there'd actually been a summer.
Yeah, because it's like when someone says, oh, it's sunny today, you should go outside and do something. I was still in the mindset of back home. It's like, yeah, I could do something when it's sunny 3 months from now.
Yes.
But it just doesn't work like that. So we learned the hard way, and next time we'll be a bit more active and getting out to the nice rooftop bars and Teleskivy and those sorts of cool areas.
Yeah.
So,
and the other change that's happened with the change of the seasons is the amount of daylight. So
it's changing so quickly.
So at the peak of summer, it didn't get dark anymore. Sunrise was at like 4 a.m. Sunset was around 11 almost.
But it was never actually dark.
But in between, it wasn't true darkness. It was sort of this permanent twilight. So whereas now it's... What, we've got 12 hours of daylight? It's
already, I think it's about to hit the equilibrium, and what's different being this far north compared to back home is the speed at which the length of the days is changing. So back home it's just this sort of, just lazy sort of across the year, but here it goes all the way up, and that's like the summer, and then it just starts to fall down and it goes really quickly, and right now the days are shortening by like 13 minutes each day.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's been a really cool thing to get to witness, but also kind of depressing as well.
Well, we're just on the countdown for Christmas now. The countdown for Christmas and snow and
Christmas markets and gloggy.
And it being dark at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's I don't know. A lot of the locals say that it really affects them, but I haven't. Last winter didn't really get to me that much. I don't know. We'll see how things go this time around, but.
I didn't think it got to me at the time, but what I noticed was when the days started getting longer and it started getting warmer, was that I was noticeably happier. But then that could have also been that I was excited about the summer that never came. So, who knows?
Maybe I'm just crazy and it just doesn't affect me, I don't know.
Yeah.
That pretty much rounds out that topic, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, next topic is the singing festival, or in Estonian, I forgot.
Laulupidu. I think.
Yeah. So this we've mentioned this before, and just in case you haven't heard about it, it's a singing festival that goes back to the mid 1800s, a celebration of Estonian folk songs, and it's only held every 5 years, so it's actually less frequent the Olympics and World Cup.
Yes.
So when we arrived last year and found out it was going to be this year, that was really cool, because what if we arrived and we found out it was the previous year? That would have sucked tremendously. So we went along to that, and it was just an incredible day, and One of my co-workers, her partner is French, and apparently he said that I don't understand you Estonians because all year long you're introverted and you don't talk to anyone and you never smile, and then for 3 days you're like running around in circles and hugging and cheering and crying, and it was pretty cool. Like it was a really big outpouring of emotion and
a really big outpouring of people. There were 100,000 people there. 120,000.
Yeah.
And the population of Estonia is like only 1.4 million. 1.3 million. So that's
10% of the population in one place.
Yeah.
And I've been at the MCG when there's been a big crowd before, but because this was not around a ground, it was all just a big block of people.
Yeah.
It was massive. And it was there were still people lining up to get in.
Yeah, when we got there.
Yeah, and people lining up to buy a ticket. Like who lines up to buy a ticket?
It's like you
for
have 5
like
years notice.
Yeah, exactly. No, we don't have the internet in Estonia.
Yeah.
But some of the other things that I found out about the singing festival is that it's extremely competitive. So a guy who used to work with me was saying, because he was in a choir, and he was saying that over those 5 years, it's basically practicing, getting your repertoire together, and figuring out which song you want to present as your choir. And then you go through all these stringent rounds of judging, and you have to be pretty good to be able to get into the final thing.
It's basically Estonia's Got Talent.
Yeah, except it's actual folk music.
Yeah.
So that's the other random stat that I love to throw around because it's such an incredible statistic. Despite the small size of Estonia, they had the most folk songs on record at over 120,000, which is just ridiculous. So. But there was also some choirs from overseas as well, which is really cool. But the thing that we found is that every city and town you go to in Estonia, there's choirs all through it. It's their thing. The singing thing is it's fantastic. We should also mention too that it also includes the dancing festival as well, which was also just amazing to watch. Like I saw some video footage of it because it was on a work day and I didn't really have the chance. The dance on the Friday for the dance festival, the weather was a little bit crap, but everyone was saying no because it's only every 5 years. There could be a blizzard; they would still be out there doing it, it's just cool. It's a really cool thing. And at the festival, it's without wanting to sound cheesy, it was really emotional when you see these people who are so into it and so like it's part of their soul that's coming out, and you could see it on people's faces. It wasn't just marketing hype like everything else in Estonia. It was a really incredible event, and I think we were very lucky to have gone to it. Is that about it for that?
Yeah. Are you going to be editing this?
Yeah.
I need to blow my nose.
To take a slightly further step back again, then there was Jaanipäev, which is the longest day of the year festival where people have barbecues and get drunk, which and then they hang around in they go to the forest. Everyone seems to have a summer home here, which is it might only be 25 minutes drive away, but then you're in the forest, so it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about Europe because, back home we have so much suburban sprawl. You're travelling for an hour and you're still in the suburbs of Melbourne, whereas here you're in another city or you're in the middle of the country. It's wonderful.
But we went down to Pärnu for that, and Pärnu is like the third or fourth biggest town. You can't really call it a city. Yeah,
basically Tallinn, where we live, is the only city over 1 million people.
No, it's 450,000.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It's the only city over 100,000 people. Is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
So that gives you a sense for how big the other cities are.
So Pärnu is the beachside spa town.
Yeah.
So we decided we took advantage of a friend from work of Jackie's to use her summer vacation place. She
owed me free accommodation after we went to Helsinki for our company's birthday, and she threw up all over our hotel room. So
it's a small price to pay rather than having to pay actual money to stay somewhere. But we got tickets to the concert that was being held in Pärnu, and there was some local entertainment of questionable variety. Quite amusing, but everyone was getting into it, everyone was having a good time, and despite the fact that there was alcohol available, it was a very family-oriented affair. No one was doing anything stupid, and it went well into the small hours of the morning because we could hear it from where we were staying. So that was really cool. I mean, a lot of people go out, and the big thing, of course, is having a bonfire. So if you're out in the forest or you're staying somewhere with an open ground, everyone has the bonfire. and some people try to run through the bonfire because they get a bit too drunk, so that's quite amusing. Plenty of singed eyebrows on the next morning. But yeah, so a lot of people, it's just 3 days of partying and eating and drinking, and yeah, it's again, like other Nordic countries, it's a pretty special occasion for them. They're pretty serious with the way they celebrate it. We should probably put into one block the places we've been visiting, because why else would you live in Europe other than to go and visit other places in Europe? So the most recent one we just got back from, which was last week.
Yep, last weekend.
Yeah, last weekend we spent 4 days in Edinburgh, which is, I think, one of both of our favourite places. When Jackie went there, she was only there for a day, so there was still a lot more for her to discover. I had a total of 4 or 5 days, so I had already done a fair few of the sites and those sorts of things. But we stayed at an Airbnb, and we found a cafe called Little Fitzroy around the corner, run by this young Australian couple, and I was able to get an actual proper flat white for the first time in, well, it's almost a year since I arrived here now, so that was very satisfying, and to have that, just to have a chinwag with some locals, that was pretty cool. But we went we did the Surgeons Hall Museum, and associated tour, which was real eye-opening and really illustrated why Edinburgh was such a hotbed of medical science development. We climbed Arthur's Seat.
Yes, we got very wet doing so.
We climbed it, and when we were climbing, it was just overcast, and then when we reached the summit, the heavens opened. Yes. And this one was okay going down, but for me, I found it a lot more difficult going down to see where your footing was going, and of course it was raining, and there was water rushing down the side of the mountain as well. So that was fun. It was rewarding.
Your feet were dry though.
Yes, I had waterproof shoes.
Yes,
so
I didn't. So my socks were a bit wet by the time we got home.
And then we just did the usual things. We went shopping at Primark, saw some stand-up, and just a few other various bits and pieces that we did. Prior to that, we did St. Petersburg, which was expensive because as non-EU citizens, we had to get an expensive visa.
It was no more expensive than Edinburgh.
We didn't need a visa for Edinburgh.
No, but the cost of the Airbnb in Edinburgh and the cost of doing stuff there.
Yeah, different things were expensive. Yeah, so actually being allowed to go to the country, I think we paid 91 each, which is 30 more than what an Estonian would pay, for example. But I mean, unsurprisingly, I guess, St. Petersburg was amazing, and well, it should be, because in 1702 or something, some bloke just said, "Yep, build me a city, bring me all the best in architects from Western Europe," and you just feel like you're in
Italy like
or
Europe.
Spain or wherever. And apart from the pastel yellow, which they all have,
I was like, imagine Paris, but the buildings are like yellow and pink and green.
all the light pastel colours. That was, and we did all the sort of standard attractions there because there was a lot to learn. We messed up on a really cool.
We did. There was a street art museum, so they overtaken an old industrial site and just covered it with street art. Turns out it's closed on a Monday and Tuesday. We were there on Saturday, Sunday, Monday and Tuesday and didn't realise this on the weekend. So by the time we were planning to go on Monday, realised it was closed. Same thing on Tuesday.
Yeah,
so
that's a shame.
Not our best planning.
No, but I mean, there's obviously so much to do that we could definitely go back and still have all this new stuff to see. And we were careful to not sort of get Paris syndrome. So because St. Petersburg is such a beautiful Western European city, we made sure we got on the metro and went out to the end of the line to see what Russia is really like. And given that St. Petersburg is regarded as sort of the most progressive place in Russia, then I'd hate to see what the rest of it's like, to be honest. Pretty depressing. Yeah. But we did a tour of the metro with all of the communist regalia, which is still down there. And I've got to say
except for the mosaic of Stalin. That's
down. That's the mystery.
Or plastered over. No one actually knows where it's
Or it's in somebody's apartment or something like that. But the thing that struck me about it was the quality of the workmanship, and there's been no restoration done or anything like that to these stations, and it's all since like the early 50s, and it reminded me a lot of the Rockefeller Center in New York because Rockefeller spent to have the highest quality possible and in that building and its all its internals, and it shows because it's never needed restoration and it looks fantastic today. And it's the same for the subway stuff. But
well, and the idea with the subway in St. Petersburg was that after the revolution, workers were expected to have the same access to luxury as everyone, because everyone's supposed to be equal. And so they were treating the subway system as an opportunity for the workers to see what would usually be reserved for a ballroom in a noble's house.
The palaces of the people. Yeah. So that was cool. And it was freaky seeing all of the communist stuff, just because it's just so weird.
Yeah, there's still like stars and sickles and everything
hammers
else.
and sickles, and there's still like a big mosaic, a big sort of like shield with all the nations of the Soviet Socialist republics. And it was so weird because we're looking, oh my God, that's Estonian, that's Latvian, that's Lithuanian, and they're not Cyrillic, they don't kind of belong there. So it was really weird seeing that. But really interesting nonetheless.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing that I'll say about the city is that it was really no different to any other big European city because it was safe. Like there were signs for pickpockets and that, but that's in every European city. So it's definitely somewhere where you wouldn't have to stress out about your safety. Yeah. And then taking it back even further, we went to Spain in April, which I was only there for a week, but Jackie got 2 weeks. I was just a little bit still new at work and didn't want to ask for 2 weeks at that stage because it's a really small company. And first destination was Barcelona, which was great. I mean, the weather was really nice and...
it was raining when we got there.
Yeah, but that was only for 1 day. And it's a really cool place, but it didn't grab me that much. There wasn't really... I mean, there was really interesting places and...
Yeah, we liked the Gothic Quarter, and I think that might be why I enjoyed it so much more last time, because I went there I can't remember if it was when I was living in London or Paris, but somewhere between like 2008 and 2011. And I really enjoyed it then, but I was actually staying like right in the middle, whereas we were staying a couple of kilometres out, so we were getting the metro in every day, and I think that makes a difference.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, like, our next stop on the Spain trip was Valencia. I was going to say Valencia automatically, so Valencia, and we both fell in love with that immediately. So having that experience immediately after Barcelona, it was sort of like
I mean Barcelona. Obviously, it's Barcelona, so of course it's hugely touristy, and it was the first time. Was it for both of us that we'd been to a big place after moving to Tallinn? Yeah, so...
I'm thinking, because I've been to Stockholm is probably the biggest, which is not that big.
Yeah, and so after being in Tallinn and then going to Barcelona and it's all crazy, it was very much like a, woof, wow, okay. But it was interesting learning about the history of the place and the Catalans, and you can really understand why they would like to secede from the rest of Spain, because royal families and kingdoms can be dicks sometimes, basically. I don't know. Sometimes, yeah. They're not all benevolent, believe it or not. And then, as Jackie said, the next place after that was Valencia, which was a lot smaller, still touristy to a degree, but nowhere near on the scale of Barcelona. And we were staying right in the old town there, which is just the best. It was like beautiful and clean, and the atmosphere was fantastic. And it wasn't that warm when we were there, but it was not stopping anyone from, spending all their time at night and the bars and the restaurants and the crackling energy and all that sort of stuff. So I really liked that. That was such a cool part of Spain to enjoy, because they're famed as a late night nation. So that was really cool to see.
We did the food tour in Valencia.
We did the food tour, which was a really good tour that was run by someone who was really passionate about it because he's Spanish. He has passion. And we got to see all these really cool local foods and actual local places that locals would shop at rather than just tourist traps. And we had the hamon sandwiches.
Oh, God, so good.
Yeah, amazing. And we also bought all the ingredients, well, the key ingredients that we need to make a real paella. And we learned about the history of paella as well. So paella translates directly to for her, so you can't technically make it for a guy. And it was usually only cooked and served on a Sunday as well.
Yeah. And there are only certain ingredients that are actually paella, like rabbit, snail,
duck.
mixed vegetables. So if you're getting like a seafood paella, that's not actually a paella.
Yeah.
That's just seafood and rice.
That information should not stop you from enjoying that meal, but just know that to pedants like us, you're not calling it the right thing.
Yes, dear.
There's another one. That's good. I'm glad. But yeah, Valencia was amazing, and they have some amazing like concert halls and performance centres, I think they were, and just really, really fantastic on what seemed to be a dried up riverbed. So they diverted the river many, many years ago.
Yeah, the arts complex was incredible.
Absolutely, and even better, the rest of the dried up riverbed that runs through the city is basically all park.
Yeah.
So it's a real green vein running through the city, which is a really cool thing to see. And then after that, it was to the capital, Madrid, and that was huge. But again, we were staying right in the middle of town, and our Airbnb was in a very not touristy area at the same time, so that made it really relaxing. I
Yeah,
think.
we had like a beautiful little square down the end of the road, and we were maybe a 10-minute walk from like the big squares and everything and all the tourist sites, so it was close enough that it was really easy to see everything, but far away enough that we didn't need to deal with the other tourists.
Exactly. But having said that, we did go to touristy places. Jackie wanted to go to the churro place, the famous one.
Yeah. It wasn't, I wanted to have churros, and I looked online to see where the best ones were. It wasn't because I particularly wanted to go to that place, it was just recommended.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It was sickly. The hot chocolate that they give you, which was basically melted liquid chocolate,
Yeah.
I couldn't handle.
I think the Russian donuts in St. Petersburg were better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. Much, much better. We also, one night, went to see flamenco dancing,
Yes.
which was amazing, and I'll just splice some footage in here. Oh no, I should have said that and then done it now. So I'm going to splice some footage in here. And welcome back. I'm sure you enjoyed that footage. My wife thinks I'm a dick. But that was absolutely amazing. Like the energy that goes into it is just so cool. And the fact that we were allowed to take videos as well,
Yeah.
as long as you weren't using a light, which there was this old guy.
God, right next to us.
He had a video cam, like an old school camcorder with a light, and he was just like, "I'm going to film this in this completely dark room."
Well, and the waiter comes up to complain to him and
tell him not to do it,
it's
and
just
he's like, "Oh, I don't know how to turn it off. It's not possible."
I can't tell if he was just being obtuse or if he genuinely didn't get what was happening.
Yeah. But there's one in every crowd, I suppose. Yes. So that was really cool, and after that we decided to try and find some karaoke, and we did. We found karaoke in a bar, and things went a little bit down south from there. So someone said he was happy to go after he did his song, and then he wasn't happy to go after he did his song because he wanted to wait for the next one, and it was so busy that it never came up on the list. And I think they kept demoting certain people's songs as new people came in as well. So we waited another half hour and it hadn't come up. And so I was like, okay, let's leave now. And I insisted when we were leaving the bar that Drew should walk in front of me because I know my husband and I know that he gets distracted by bright shiny objects. And if I go walking out, I would turn around and he would not be there. So then he gets pissed off at me for insisting that he walks in front of me. Yet, even when he's walking first to get out of the bar, he randomly starts talking to some people he's never met before. So, a sociable guy.
Yes, dear. Anyway, so I told him that, I said, I'm going outside, you have 5 minutes, and if you don't come out, I'm leaving. And he didn't come out after 5 minutes, so I walked home, went to bed. And what happened then?
Who knows? No, I stayed in that bar for a bit longer. I don't think I sung again. And then I left. And
So it was worth it then?
Oh, totes. I don't know. I left the bar and I think my phone had about 13% battery on it. So at that stage I was still focusing on going home, but I couldn't remember where the hell we were staying. Because I just thought, I'll find it on the map and I can tell a taxi driver or whatever, and that wasn't to be. And I could not remember for the life of me, despite taxi driver's help. I ended up taking about 3 different taxis that night just to try and get to another part of the city that I thought we were staying in. I ended up on the outskirts of the city in some random Spanish bar, drinking with these locals, and this woman at the bar felt pity for me clearly because she brought me some free food because obviously I couldn't speak Spanish at all, and I don't know how I made it back in. I think I got the 3rd taxi back into the centre of the city then and went and had McDonald's. I think I had about 47 cheeseburgers, walking around the city until 5 in the morning going, I'll just go to sleep because my battery had obviously gone flat. I'll just sleep on a park bench and then I'll know what I'm doing in the morning when I'm sober. And I think I slept for about 15 minutes and thought, someone's going to come and steal my shit while I'm asleep. So eventually, by some miracle, I found the Airbnb that we were staying in, got in at about 5:45 in the morning, and because she cares so much about me, Jackie was still up, waiting for me to come home.
Yes, so he wasn't the only one who didn't get good sleep that night.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
I'm just glad she stayed up. And so at that point I left to go back home, and then you carried on.
So then I went on to Seville, Granada and Malaga. And it was the week before Easter, so in all 3 cities there were parades for the Holy Week. So they had a bunch of people who were dressed up like the KKK, but in different colours. So there were blue KKK members and black KKK members.
It's the gay pride KKK.
Yeah, basically. I tried to look it up and I couldn't. I don't know if they're supposed to be bishops or something. That's something to do with Holy Week, and they were carrying candles, or some of them had these big floats with Mary
dancing
or Jesus or
in arseless chaps,
and that too. So basically the major streets were blocked off from, I think it was 7 p.m. for 3 or 4 hours every night that week. And they just did these circuits of the city, and there were crowds everywhere wanting to see them. In Seville, everywhere I went, I was mostly just wandering around and
Did you see the barber?
Spain. Yes, dear.
That's another one. She's so angry at me right now. And then where did you go?
Granada and Malaga.
Yeah.
You want want me to talk about Granada and how it did not live up to my expectations.
Yeah.
Because of Korean dramas.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I got into Korean dramas on Netflix, and one of them is called The Memories of the Alhambra, and part of it is set in Granada, and it's about a augmented reality game where you can fight 15th century Spanish knights in the middle of the streets. And so I had this image of Granada in my head from this show, and when I got there, it just didn't look familiar. There was nothing I recognised, so I went wandering around trying to find this square where the first battle takes place, and I could not find this square anywhere. And I was looking on the maps, and I couldn't find any squares that I hadn't been to, so then I decided to Google where these scenes were filmed. Turns out, that scene was not filmed in Granada. It was not filmed in Spain. It was filmed in Slovenia. So it turns out, other than the Alhambra, most of that show was not filmed in Granada at all. It was either in Genoa or Slovenia. So Granada did not look like I was expecting it to look.
A+ for planning on this trip. Really good.
To be fair, I was misled. I still saw the Alhambra though, which is the main sites.
True.
Which is highly recommended. It was amazing.
So that's pretty much a wrap-up of places we've been so far, and then I suppose, where are we going in the future?
Well, someone gets to go to Prague for work.
It's only for 2 days, but it's still, I'm just going to Prague for work. That's why you live and work in Europe.
And then at the end of November, we're going to Italy for a week.
Yes, that should be good. We're staying in a little place called Siena, just outside of a train ride outside of Florence, and so hopefully it's just big enough to have interesting things, but small enough to be charming and Italian. So that should hopefully be really good. And we've been searching Airbnbs, and you find some of them, and it's like, you can stay in Nonna's apartment, and there's pictures of Nonna, and doubtless she'd try and fill you up with food every night because she just want to be a good host, even though she probably couldn't speak any English.
And then we just get rolled back to Estonia.
Yeah, pretty much. But that's one of the reasons why you go to Italy anyway, is to eat. So that should be a good trip. Back onto Estonian topics. Actually, something that just happened today, which I'll probably turn into a blog post for some reason, is I just wanted to make a quick mention about the digital ecosystem in Estonia. And so my prescription had run out, and so how do you refill a prescription in Estonia? You make a booking online, which you have to wait 5 minutes for, and you pay €5, and a doctor just goes and redoes all your prescriptions digitally, and within 10 minutes you can go to any pharmacy in the entire country, and as long as you've got your ID card, you can get your medication there, no need for a piece of paper. So that's when they do it right.
Yeah, some things work.
Yeah, some things work really well, actually, despite some of the troubles and challenges we've had along the way. So yeah, that's when Estonia actually has the right to brag, I think. If we had something like that back home, it'd be absolutely amazing.
Taxes were good too.
Yeah, you just go in and...
So I did my taxes. It was about 5 minutes. I went in and they already had all my details there. So they knew the company I worked for, they knew what I'd earned, it had already been calculated. So I went through in 5 minutes, clicked OK, and then I think it was 2 weeks later I had the money in my account.
What about deductions though? I mean...
I imagine it would be more complex if you have a business or something, but for
an
most
individual.
People...
Because back home we'd be like, oh yeah, I had $300 of cleaning of my uniform or something like that.
Well, then you'd add that in manually, I suppose, but I think most people who are traditionally employed back home probably aren't claiming a whole lot of extra stuff. It's just they get their group certificate and that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, still worth mentioning. Very digital. Very cool when it works. Did we talk about people who come to visit? No. We've had lots of people come to visit, which is really cool. So back in June, Jackie's parents were here for about four days.
Yeah, they got the whole of Estonian summer. Yeah. So it was 30 degrees when they were here and it's been raining ever since.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, on and off. Actually, on the really hot day, I think it got to about 33, which for Estonia is fire.
Yeah.
We actually I took the day off work and took them to the Estonian Open Air Museum, which is an absolutely magnificent place. And you literally just get on the bus, and 20 minutes from our apartment, because we're in the middle of suburbia, 20 minutes later, you're literally back in the forest. And this open air museum, what they've done is they've basically uprooted small villages and deconstructed the buildings and then brought them to this open air museum and reconstructed the buildings to show what life was like over the centuries. Because I think the oldest building was about 700 or 800 years old or something, in different parts of Estonia. Because in different parts of Estonia, they have different traditions, different skills and all that sort of thing. And it was just so well done. And being in the forest on a day when it was like 33 was really bearable and nice. So yeah, it was really cool. And anyone who does come to Estonia, you definitely need to put that on one of your must-dos, is the open air museum. I think another one would be the National Museum in Tartu as well. So that was really cool. Then we had your sister.
Yep.
So shout out to Rhiannon. Oh my god. And she stayed for 4 days.
Yeah, 4 or 5 days.
4 or 5 days, yeah. Brought us supplies of Tim Tams and that sort of stuff, which, you know, is very important. And then a couple of weeks ago, Jayan came and stayed, and we got ridiculously drunk one night after karaoke and ended up at the Russian strippers.
He still has the bruises to show for it.
Jayan had more bruises.
It's not a competition.
No, but competition-wise, Jayan didn't spew, which, like, it's like he's...
At all?
At all.
Oh, wow.
So it's like he's maturing or something.
Well done, Jayan.
Yeah, keep it down, buddy. Well done. But Jayan had a good time as well. He saw lots of cool stuff. He slept in on the last day and missed the train to Narva, but that let him get souvenirs. So if you got a souvenir from Jayan, it's because he slept in and wasn't thinking of you at all. But yeah, it's been really cool for people to actually make the effort to come, you know, the 17,000 kilometres from home, even though it wasn't solely for us. Like, it was all part of a greater trip, but the fact is people came here.
But, I mean, when I think of my family, like, Mum and Dad only came to this part of Europe because we were living here. Yeah. Same thing with Rhiannon. So, yeah, thank you for visiting, everyone.
Yeah, and
if you know us in real life, you're very welcome to come over and you can crash at our place.
Yeah, I'm not going to put the address on the screen. So if you're a psychopath, then...
Yeah, if you don't know us in real life, then...
Yeah.
Like, meet us in real life first.
Yeah. Especially if you're hot. Hey, we live in the country of supermodels. I have high standards now.
Yes, dear.
I love you. So that was great that people have visited. I've signed up for an open mic night, which is exciting and terrifying at the same time. So I've been meaning to actually do this for a while, and had actually been meaning to do it in Melbourne, never got around to it, never had the balls, I guess. And so finally, Comedy Estonia has some English open mic nights, or actually this one will have some Estonian as well. So I thought, bugger it, I need the pressure to actually make me do it. So now I just actually have to write some jokes. No pressure or anything, but I went through some of the material with Jayan when he was here, and he rubbished basically all of it. So that's filled me with confidence. The set is strictly limited to 5 minutes, which is both not much time and also an eternity if you're standing in front of people trying to make them laugh. But, you know, I've been pretending to do it so long at work for so many years now that I thought, I may as well see if I can do it properly. And it's not that I'm going to change my career, it's just something I want to do.
Until you get your Netflix special.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if I am successful, then you will see me on Netflix. I don't think I'll get 60 million or 40 million like Chris Rock did, but you know, maybe a few million. Yeah.
That'd do.
That'd do.
We're not greedy.
No. I mean, it doesn't even have to rate well. I've already been paid. It's Netflix, and that'll be fine. We're all happy. Is that everything on the list?
Yeah.
I think it is. So it's it's been a big catch-up video, and so we might perhaps start doing these in more bite-sized increments as well as actually posting stuff in the blog again, because there's a lot of stuff coming up. Like Restaurant Week is coming up. That's really cool, and we'll be eating a lot then.
Comedy festivals coming up.
Comedy festivals coming up. Not as big a names as last year when I missed it, but still, it's comedy festival, so it's a good chance.
The only name you missed last year was Stephen Amos. Like, no one else I'd heard of.
Wasn't Jimmy Carr part?
No, he was separate.
Just a separate tour.
Yeah, he was doing his own tour.
Okay. Alright, so thank you for watching such a long video. I hope it entertained you as much as it entertained us. And we might do some more of these in future and see how we go. Alright, so thank you Plant, thank you Picture, and...
Thank you Wife.
Thank you Wife. And thank you Pen and Paper. And we'll see you later.